I remember interviewing for a role, a corporate role, not in beauty.
I think we've talked about that role before.
Yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a corporate role, not in beauty, and it was very client facing, that role. And I happened to get access to the comments made by the panel of interviewers way down the line. But one of the remarks by the interviewing panelists was, she has brown teeth. How can you send her to your clients?
Hello, my name is Njoroge, and welcome to the Lioness Grotto podcast. In this podcast, I want to talk something that affects all of us, and that's when it comes to beauty and hygiene and our health and the way we look, which we all care about, and the way people view us. We talk a lot about skincare, we talk a lot about wearing makeup, we talk about weight a lot, but no one ever talks about teeth. And the thing with teeth is that actually the one thing you cannot hide. The minute you open your mouth, everybody sees it, and it affects how people look at you, likability, confidence, it's emotional. And recently I was reminded of how it makes me feel. So I've always had brown teeth. A lot of people don't know this because my teeth have been fixed. But I've been going through an experience right now where I was going through the process of changing my veneers around. And it just reminded me the mental and emotional anguish that for the last month, even the people that are very, very close to me, I didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want to open my mouth. I wanted to cover it up. So I thought about it, and I was like, we need to start having this conversation and the effects it has on us when you don't have perfect teeth. And with me today is my friend Eva, and we have been through this journey together. Actually, she's one of the very, very few people I've ever spoken about about my teeth and the process of my teeth. If you have met me in the last 20 years, a lot of people do not know I had brown teeth. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he seemed very shocked. Literally, he was like, you had brown teeth?" I was like, "Yeah, I still have brown teeth. They are just covered. They're just fixed." And Eva, I will let Eva introduce herself. Tell us who she is and why we are having this discussion together today.
Yep. Super. So, like Anna said, hello, first of all. And I'm here because I'm your friend, and because, like you, I had a journey around brown teeth pretty much since I was, I don't know, the one after your milk teeth or your birth teeth come off, the ones that came back with fluorosis or brown teeth, as we commonly call them. And I walked through life with them pretty much till I could earn enough to fix myself, because they're not cheap. But today I'm happy to share my story. Like you, I think it's been a journey of identity, in part wanting to shield myself from scrutiny, being able to, especially in the early days, hearing the, not bullying, but the negative talk on the playground with the kids. It sticks in your head. I'm happy to share about it at the corporate place. I remember it coming up in an interview. So yeah, we can talk about it some more. But yeah, happy to.
And for me, again, I never talked about it. I grew up in a crew. So for me, the first time it actually registered, because if you grew up in a crew, and I went to high school around a crew, it actually never consciously registered that I have brown teeth or imperfect teeth. It wasn't until I came to Nairobi.
Yeah.
I looked around me and I'm like, wait, this isn't normal.
And what age was that?
I was 17.
Okay.
That's the first time, because now majority of the people around me don't have it.
like
And I remember
that.
looking at these friends of mine and going, wow, no one has teeth that looks like mine. Because when you grow up in a crew, unfortunately, it's
Everyone
almost
looks like you.
normal. And that's the first time I became self-conscious. And from that age, I stopped smiling.
From 17?
Yeah, from about 17, I stopped smiling. Unless I was like with family, I wouldn't smile. I stopped speaking in public so loudly, even in class. I wouldn't respond to questions. I hated presentations. because I didn't want people to see it. That's the first time it became conscious. And then I learned it's not easily fixable. I'm 17 years old. When I was told the cost of fixing it, and my parents can't afford that. So it became this thing I go through life with that really started to affect my self-esteem. And I'm very confident. I've never had self-esteem issues or confidence issues. But if there's one thing that could have put me there, is my teeth. And I started, now I look back, because I tell people I'm shy and no one ever believes it. But now when I look back, it's actually not shyness. It's I didn't want to speak around people.
You are conscious.
I was so conscious.
Yeah.
It affected how I thought I looked. I never thought myself as beautiful because in my head it's like, how can anyone be this beautiful? And I didn't know how to fix it. So for you, when was the first time you became conscious in your mind that it's different and it's not what people expect and it's not like everyone else's and it's not like everyone else's in a good way?
Mine was very much earlier. When I was young, I remember I have a younger brother, and younger brothers are known to be bullies at times. So his specialty was telling me, nimekula mafia kuku, because if you grew up in the village like I did, that was the myth around brown teeth, or less scientifically known then. So it was around kids, especially, I would remember, was watu wenye wamekula mafia kuku, they have that kind of a teeth, yeah. I also didn't grow up in an area, or rather we moved. I don't even know where I got them from, but I remember we used to move a lot as kids. So by the time I was coming to age or aware, I had brown teeth. And by the time my brother is young enough to talk or make fun, that's what he's making fun of, right? So as early as, I want to say, age 6, 5, there's about. And then I grew up in Thika and Gatondo at some point. So, and then I went to boarding school, which was in Kirinyaga. So again, meeting an ecosystem of different types of people, and you have different teeth, right? Yeah. I remember in class 8, being in a boarding school, and it was a mixed school by then. And there used to be boys that sat behind me, and they used code names for the people in class, and mine was brown teeth. So, and if you think about being in class 8, this is around when you're coming into teenagehood. So you're aware of yourself as you turn into a young lady. And that's, I mean, how men think of you matters, or how boys think of you matter. And the boys that sat behind me would say, brown teeth, I'm a brown teeth, ndo number 1, kwa mark, whatever they were using to define me at that time. So that again registers that the opposite sex thinks of you as brown teeth. And now this is the formation of identity as well, if you think of your teenagehood, right? High school, I can't remember it being much of an issue. But those early childhood days, what I take note of is people talking to me in a way of mockery, and that mockery registers, and then you use that as the basis, or I used it as the basis of my identity. So I'm less than. Okay. That's how I showed up. I showed up as less than. So how does it manifest? I don't smile. I wouldn't smile. I was talkative, but not instinctive to show my teeth. It's not it wasn't natural. So every picture you have of me below a certain age, I would say below 18, I never used to smile. Honestly, you smile like that.
Yeah, I know that smile. That's literally the picture I have. All my photos are like that.
Like that, right? And then, like I said, at 13, boys are calling you brown teeth. So even my relationship with men or young boys, that's the age now you start finding boys attractive, right? But it was at the back of my mind. So will I approach a guy? Not necessarily. Or will I think I'm attractive when some guy attempts to talk to me? In my teenagehood, I would always be aware that I am less than. So it goes like that. So self-esteem for sure. 100% affected my self-esteem or how I showed up.
How
I would
about, did you feel beautiful, or did you think you were
100%
beautiful?
not. Or it wasn't, it was very hard to be convinced I was beautiful because I was still your minus the
Right.
perfect teeth. And I think you said this earlier, or maybe it was before we started. It's always the first thing I noticed.
Yes.
So there are people the first thing I would tell is, oh my God, I wish I had teeth like yours, right? But because, so I don't know if it was my standard of beauty, but for sure, if you told me I was beautiful, I'd say, but I have brown teeth, so there's achawongo, you know. So there's that.
There's that, and that was one. I think I've talked to about this before, where I was, when I was working in corporate America, and I was told I was beautiful, and I was like, it bothered me because in my mind I can't be.
Yeah.
And that was one of the.
So you
things-
discount your beauty.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
I discounted my
I
beauty.
discounted my beauty because in my mind I'm like, I can't be beautiful not with these brown teeth.
Yeah.
And people also do look at you a certain way. And the thing about it is, it's not even conscious. A lot of people will dismiss you the minute you open your mouth, but it's actually not something they've done consciously. It's very, very subconscious. Because unfortunately, even though, like for me, it's brown teeth, for some people, it's crooked teeth, and even the gap, sometimes it's people with a gap feel a certain way. And it is because you can see being dismissed.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you wanted to say is no longer important just because your teeth are not what people expect them to be. And you can see it. Like I could see it in people's minds. Like I've just been tuned off for no reason. Like, so I thought I really stopped speaking. And it affects how you feel. It affects how you show up. It affected for me, even though I remember being in college when I was in the US, and I would be so quiet. I would never answer any questions. I would never participate in discussions. I hated group projects because now you
have to talk.
To talk.
Yeah.
And we would do an exam and I'm leading. Like even the professor would literally be like, how does she never talks? So it's almost until an exam happens, everybody thinks I'm dumb.
Yeah, the one other thing I wanted to point, which is separate from beauty standards or how I thought of myself and identity, was I remember one time I asked my mother, "Can't we fix it?" And she said it cost a lot of money. I was probably still under 13, but that was also the first sense of social status.
Yeah.
And how poor we are. Like if your mother thinks your teeth are not fixable given her resources, like we must be really poor, or at least that's how it registered in my
Because
head.
at 13, you also didn't realize how expensive it really
It is quite expensive, but
Yes.
also for me, I only said it to introduce the concept of the other way my identity was shaped is you're really so showcased. You're among
like
the bottom,
down at the
yeah,
bottom,
because if it takes that much to look like other people, and we can't afford to look like other people, yeah,
Then we
you are
must
the
be
bottom of the
poor.
bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't see it. You don't see it in your house. You don't see it in the schools you go because your school fees is still getting paid. You live in a decent house. You hamjai kosa chakula. You've never lacked food, but yet she can't afford it. So
She can't afford to fix my teeth.
either we are faking it or we are really poor in some sense. Okay, that's
And
it's a
it
kid.
registers,
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like again, everybody looked at me like I wasn't smart enough when I was in college.
Yeah.
Until, of course, when there was an exam and then they would realize, wait, she's actually pretty smart. But I never discussed my teeth with anyone ever because I also didn't feel it's something I can bring up because there's also shame around it. There's actually shame around it because most people look at it and assume it's bad hygiene. That's actually what
Yeah.
registers in people's minds for the most part.
Yeah.
And the thing, especially ours is fluorosis, which is water. And for those who do not know, fluorosis is caused by too much fluoride in the water. So in areas of Nakuru, and I remember once actually it was on the radio, I think it was on Kids, them making fun of people from Nakuru because of their bad teeth. And in my mind, I'm like, it's actually not funny if you've gone through it. It's really, really damaging. It is the way you view yourself, the confidence, the way you show up. And I had forgotten about it once they got fixed. And I remember being in a crew this weekend and I noticed it way, way more. And even these teenagers, both boys and girls, are covering their mouth. You can see they don't want to speak. When they're smiling, it's that one of, they don't want to show teeth. And it's, it's still healthy. It's just bad, whatever. And a lot of people don't even know it's fixable. So I was looking at the ones in a crew because there's different ways to fix it, and we'll come to that. One of them is actually the micro abrasion, which is not expensive. Because for me, I actually got it done. I don't know if you ever got before you got them permanently fixed.
I just did veneer straight.
Because I even tried micro abrasion, which is basically they peel or they drill, not drill, but kind of chip off your enamel a little bit.
Sounds
and
painful.
if it's not, it is, because your teeth also do get very, very
Sensitive, I can imagine.
But if it's not severe, it actually, especially if it's followed by whitening, it works.
Oh.
But a lot of people actually don't know that. So some of it is actually, if it's not too bad, it can be fixed pretty easily. And the microabrasion, I remember getting it done even before I went to the US, kind of trying. It made it a little better, but mine were quite severe. And the funny thing is, like, your brother doesn't have round teeth, because for me, mine happened in Mao. So fluorosis actually happens at the enamel level. And it's when the teeth are coming out.
Yeah.
When you're permanent teeth. It actually happens inside the gum. It's before your teeth even come out. Once your teeth come out, you're fine. So like my youngest brother has perfect teeth because he grew up in a different
me too.
area. But he and I have never until now spoken. He knew my teeth got fixed at some point, but we never spoke about it. And how did we even get to that topic, you and I actually speaking about teeth? Because I remember a couple of years ago, you and I having the conversation. And even in that group of ours, our group of friends, we have never had that conversation with anyone else, just the two of us. And I think that I asked you because for me, I've gone through it. And I think that's why, because even then you didn't know I had brown teeth.
Because by the time I knew you. So I got mine in 2016, yes. So it was 2 years after we had known each other. And then that's when the conversation started.
And the courage for me to even, because most people will not ask. They actually, because again, they don't know how you feel about it. Other people won't bring it up. So our other friends probably, they noticed you were getting them fixed.
Yeah, but
they never brought it up because it has never been
and
a problem.
even
so you
today,
don't even know how to bring up
even
that
today,
topic.
People who have known you for a long time, they just, did you whiten your teeth? They're like, no. They've always been like this for the last, minus 2012, 2016. Yeah. So it's just, they call it whitening. It's not, did you get something done?
Done, yes.
Yeah, it's whitening because you are not always like this. You are other.
And the thing is, the people who have perfect teeth, or what we want to call good teeth, actually don't even think that it takes that much and the mental anguish. They don't ask about it because they think society already tells you, that's not something, I want to ask about. You could even ask people, like, that's how we are so common about asking, let's say, your skin. Like, if your skin looks great, I'll be like, oh my God, Eva, what did you do to your skin? Or if you start breaking out, I don't have a problem asking someone like, hey, you're breaking out or your skin looks a little dry. But when it comes to teeth, nope, no one does. We all know it's almost like a taboo conversation.
Unless they're talking about how perfect, again, in quotes. So like, your teeth look
so...
So I get that a lot. And as a person who has come off brown teeth, I'm very conscious now of how I look. And so also very aware when people compliment my teeth. They're like, you have perfect teeth. I get that a lot. Like, so it's for me to remind them, they weren't always like that. And even you have known me when my teeth are not like that. Yes. Not you exactly, but someone will compliment my teeth not knowing that work has gotten done. Yes.
And a lot of work and very expensive work. And for me, yes.
Expensive.
So I couldn't even afford, when I first, I went through a whole process because for me, it was such mentally really a problem. Like, it really affected how I felt, how I showed up.
And insurance doesn't cover it. Huh?
No, it's cosmetic.
It's
so
cosmetic,
insurance
yes.
doesn't cover it.
Yes.
It actually will affect, in Kenya, probably not so much in African countries, but in like Western countries, it really messes with even your mental health. It actually has been shown, studies have shown people with not perfect teeth or literally have emotional issues, even depression. I would think like a place like the United States, you've been there and you see how perfect
Yeah.
teeth are. So imagine now me showing up there. Well, everyone has
Yeah, and they wear
amazing
braces.
teeth.
Like all children grow up and wear braces from age 11 for some reason. And,
And
then
yeah,
you
and
get
here I
perfectly
am.
formed teeth by the time you're 18. Yeah.
Exactly. And here you show up and all these other things that we don't think about. I'm an African woman and black girl. I've come to the United States. It's the first time you're even thinking about being black, but my teeth now, everything just too much. And I remember I would just not smile, not talk. My circle of friends became much, much smaller. And I don't remember even any other Kenyan, at least when I was in the US, meeting another Kenyan who had brown teeth. So I became just me. So I went through the process of first I actually got the microdermabrasion twice. I got it done here, and I remember getting it done in the US. I remember going to the dentist and asking how much for veneers, and it's $700 a veneer. That's how expensive they were then. They've come down, but I'm like, I can't afford. And I remember that time, I'm in a minimum wage job. I'm still going to school. What do you mean seven? I am
Yeah.
$700 a week.
Yeah.
There's no way I can afford. So I did microdermabrasion again. Funny enough, the insurance covers that.
Oh,
And then
American
later-
insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Way later, they got, what did I get? I didn't get veneers. Again, they were still too expensive. So I got composites. Still expensive, but but they're not permanent. So that's why now I had to redo my teeth. Now I'm like, okay, I'm at a point. And for me, I could tell they were starting to chip because they're not permanent. I could start seeing a little bit of brownness coming in. And for me, who is in business and owns a beauty brand, it completely meant like the whole of November, as we're having this conversation, it's probably going to come out in January, but the whole of November, I was going through the process because it's also pretty long. So they removed my composites and I had to get temporaries. And because they kept refitting, the temporaries kept getting worse and worse because, the dentist doesn't want to keep drilling and drilling. I have canceled every business meeting in November.
Because of that.
I couldn't show up.
Yeah.
I have not done any social gathering other than my probably family and maybe you. I was at an event or just a gathering with very, very close friends that we have known for a long time. And I was avoiding speaking. They actually thought I was bored. I had this conversation with my husband because he was there and I told him that's why I was not speaking. He's like, oh, I just thought you were bored. And I'm sure they thought I was bored because they kept wanting to speak to me and I don't want to speak. And at some point, I left.
Oh, you left your people.
Yes. And these are not new people I'm meeting. These are people I've
And they're
known
used
for
to seeing
years.
you a certain way, bubbly.
Exactly. They're
Engaged.
used to seeing me, and one of them is actually very close. I'm sure she wouldn't have cared. But even for her, I know, like mentally, I could see I'm turning my head when I'm speaking to her. And I'm sure even her, we haven't had a discussion. She'll probably watch this and like go, oh, that's what was going on. Because they were all looking at me weird. They would go, oh, how's business? How's everything going?
Were
And
they
I'm
looking?
like,
Do you think they were looking at you weird because you were
it's
quiet
in my
and
mind. Yes,
unnatural?
so quiet and unnaturally me.
Yes.
And remember, they've met me. These are people I've met
Yeah.
after my teeth got fixed. They don't know that part of me, so they've only seen me with
Yeah.
good teeth.
So they were not looking at you weird
No,
because
the
they
weird was,
noticed.
Why is she behaving?
So it's your
different?"
behavior, not your teeth.
It was my behavior.
Yeah.
But for me, my behavior
Was triggered by your mind.
Triggered by my teeth. And probably very few people were noticing it. So much so that when I did that Financially Incorrect Life podcast, I had another event to go to afterwards. So I changed And as I was changing, I remember my cousin zipping me up, and I turned around and one of the temporaries came off. I canceled the event. You could barely see it, but in my mind, I couldn't show up confidently. I couldn't show up as me. And this was actually a women's event. It was supposed to go to the Women's on Boards gala in the evening. I'm like, I don't want to show up there like that. And that means me as a woman, just because of my teeth, and a lot of it is in my head, people would probably notice it. It affects the way I behave. It affects the way I interact with people. It affects the way I view myself. And I project that to others because I feel like they're viewing me that way, even though sometimes they're not.
A lot of the times. They're not.
You know,
It's in your head.
They're not even seeing it. And what inspired this conversation is I had forgotten just how mentally and emotionally and socially draining and it can affect you. So I'm almost changing my friendships. I don't want to make presentations for business. I don't want to approach new customers. And unfortunately, I'm in the beauty space. And we have to be honest about these things. I cannot be going out there and saying, you know, I'm in the beauty space. And the thing about teeth is, and I think we talked about this, it doesn't matter how amazing my skin looks. It doesn't matter how beautiful my makeup is. If my teeth are less than perfect, the only thing people are going to see are the teeth. And it stops there. They don't even see anything else. And they're like, okay, this person, in their minds, again, it's not conscious. This person, how are they telling us about beauty and teeth? And I wanted even to have these conversations. So a lot of people, if you're going through this, it can be fixed. And sometimes, like I said, if it's not so severe, and even the abrasion, is it the most effective? If actually it's pretty mild, it will work because you don't even have to scrape that far. But like you said, even you who has had the issue, you didn't know that even.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
And when followed by whitening, it actually, and it's a much cheaper option than, and even for me, when I first got it done, it was better because they were not as brown. They didn't become white because mine was very severe. However, at least now I could smile more. I remember my senior project in college and presenting, and remember being so confident for once. And my group project, they looked at me like, wow, something is different.
So this is after you've gotten the second
Actually,
one?
it was the microdermabrasion.
The second one?
Yes.
Okay.
The second one now.
Yeah.
But the problem again, because I had two, my teeth became very sensitive.
Yeah.
So from structurally of the teeth, the first time it wasn't too bad. The second time, but even though I knew it wasn't ideal, I still did it. Just so I can even feel better.
Show up better.
And
even.
show up better.
Yeah.
And I remember I aced that senior project, and I know it couldn't have happened if I was still feeling that self-aware. So for you, when you got it done, how did that make you feel? Did you show up differently?
Yeah. So you said something interesting about being in the beauty industry and the standards. I think different spaces in beauty, yes, you guys do have a certain extra level of standards. But I remember interviewing for a role, a corporate role, not in beauty.
I think we've talked about that role before.
Yes,
Yeah.
a corporate role, not in beauty, and it was very client-facing, that role. And I happened to get access to the comments made by the panel of interviewers way down the line. But one of the remarks by the interviewing panelists was, she has brown teeth, how can you send her to your clients? So not only does this apply to just beauty people, but even in corporate, you could be in banking and back office, you could be somewhere. There are still standards that people expect you to have beauty, and you could argue whether they're superficial or not, But just because your teeth look a certain way, someone on an interviewing panel thinks that you're not deserving of a role.
Yeah.
So what was interesting about that role is I got called for the interviewing process when I had just started the process of fixing my teeth. And I'm not even sure what level I was at, but because like you said, it's a long process. But I was definitely not at the worst level, but they still called it out. Right?
you
So it
hadn't
could have
started,
been the
yes.
temporary stage, that one. And they still called out that I have an imperfection in my teeth being brown. I don't think they were brown, but I think I had just started the journey of
The getting
Yeah.
so you're probably with the temporary.
Yeah, but
or
even
not
then,
usually that white or that
they
perfect.
called me out.
Yes.
Now imagine if they had found me in my original state, right? So I remember seeing these notes after I got the job, and by the time I reported, now contract signed and all, I had already completed and now had the permanent veneers on. And so I show up, and I wonder if that panelist felt bad because they called me out with my teeth, not knowing that I had started the process. And by the time I showed up, I had the teeth that I guess was suitable for the role. But I remember seeing those notes, and like you said, the emotional state, like you're not being judged because you're not good enough in the role. You're not being judged because you cannot deliver. You're being judged because you have imperfect teeth. I wish you say I am not competent. I do not have the right degree. You are judging me because of my teeth.
And if I remember correctly, they were actually the notes was when you're the most qualified.
Exactly.
And they even said you were beautiful. There was that. She's the most qualified. She had the best experience.
Exactly.
She's beautiful. She's confident.
But
her teeth. So you almost lost a role
because
of teeth.
Yeah. Someone had sense on that panel, and I got the role, and I showed up, changed.
At least you had already started the process.
Yes.
Not you didn't change
But
for it.
yeah, I didn't change for it.
Yeah.
But also, you judged me because, like, I have never gotten over that. I was judged because of my teeth.
And and it's not now I can say in the beauty and the business space, but I started being confident even in my career at the very beginning. I'm in finance, so my first job, my teeth was still not fixed again. I couldn't quite. I had the micro abrasion, but it's still not perfect. And I remember being very quiet, even in meetings. I wouldn't speak, and I was in a culture which is the American culture that values outspokenness.
Yeah.
Right? That's that. If you don't speak,
Being
if you
outspoken.
don't put yourself out there, you never grow. So for me, even though really I'm not customer facing, I'm in finance, it was still important because I wanted to grow in my career. And I'm like, if I want to grow, I need to get this fixed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just the beauty part of it or the aesthetics, even though that's beautiful and all of that. It affects my
How
career.
you show up, yes. And so you asked me, how did it make me feel? So once I see these notes, obviously I'm transformed. I feel transformed. I can smile out loud. If you say that, you can open your mouth and be genuinely smiley. So even for me, even how I show up, like I'm very warm, but you can't be warm when you're closed mouth smiling.
No.
So it allowed me to be, I want to say factory settings, be genuinely warm and embracive, and it's in the open smile. And obviously now being in a client facing role, you are outspoken and the confidence, remember, it was also part of my identity growing up. So you shed off that insecurity of I am beautiful, but so you remove the but. I have removed the but with the fixing of the teeth, and so you're I'm just beautiful,
exactly.
right? And that's how you show up. I am beautiful, and with it, the confidence of I am beautiful. I can do this. Like if it's client facing, you don't have to worry about the externalities. Now you can focus on the matter. I can focus on the matter. The biggest change for me was allowing myself to be open and warm, so not closed off, because I think we discount how much closed off we can. And you just talked about your recent experience, just being closed off and people thinking you're bored.
So they think I'm bored.
And detached.
People used to think I don't like people.
Exactly.
I'm standoffish. Those are things I used to be told.
And it's all
I'm
just because
standoffish.
you're trying to protect your identity
Exactly.
or your esteem.
And the thing about it is I love to smile and I love to laugh.
Oh, laughing. Yes.
Yes.
Laughing without doing this.
Without doing this.
Yeah.
You know,
That was me as
I was
well.
having a conversation with a friend about this conversation when I told her what she has actually even her she was going through something, but hers is not the brownness, but because of medication, her gum has receded a little, and it really is bothering her, and you can't notice it.
Yeah.
But she sees it, and she thinks everyone is seeing it. Her teeth are very white. It's just her gum has receded a little bit because of some medication. So the dentist is trying to figure out. And we had this conversation, and she told me her mom's friend who has not brown teeth again, but the teeth that kind of protrude a little, and she always covers her mouth. And people have started thinking she has some kind of mental illness because she's always like this. And unless you go through it,
Yeah.
never ever think about it. And I think part of this raising awareness, I wanted just to talk about even people who have the goodness to just be empathetic
Yeah.
sometimes. Just, you know, think about it, be empathetic. And they don't think about it because it's never been their problem. I was having a conversation with my husband literally when I was going through this process. He's like, what? I have never realized what a process
It is.
it is and what it can do to someone else. And the people who have the issue, and I know sometimes it's cost prohibitive, but I think sometimes we also don't even go find out what our options are.
Yeah.
We just decide it's what it is. It can't be done, it can't be helped. And maybe also we call out the dentists out there, maybe just educating people. But I also realize a lot of us also don't go to dentists. People also need, visit the dentist, ask. And if you have an insurance cover, a lot of them do have dental. So at least that part of, and in that moment, the dentist could give you what the options could be. The cheaper ones, the more expensive ones, and you can know how they can be fixed, because I usually say knowledge is power. If you don't know, you just go through life with this anguish, and it's limiting you. And remember, I'm all about being limitless. It's preventing you from basically reaching whatever potential out there. Find out their options. Let's talk to each other, because if I hadn't known that you were going through the process, and even when for 2 years I knew you, we never talked about it.
No.
When they hadn't fixed.
Yeah.
I never asked you. You were always, by the way, self-conscious. You never smiled. I remember you smile way more now.
Yeah.
But we never talked about it even then. Even me, who has had the problem, we never talked about it until you started getting them fixed. So if we had talked about it, I could have told you maybe other options. Someone who is coming out right now, maybe in university, they may not be able to afford the veneers, but the microabrasion could work if they're not very severe. And even if they are, it could help it just a little bit, so it's not so brown and so bad. So I just wanted to have this discussion because I think it's a conversation we need to have, and we need to stop hiding and how it's affecting, and people knowing they have options. It doesn't have to be forever. Go be limitless. For you now, what advice would you give someone who is going through the process? And also kind of two questions in one.
Yeah.
The people who have good teeth, like what would you tell them how to be compassionate and have a little bit empathy for people who are struggling?
Well, I guess the first person is, for the person who's going through it, is I'm a bit more empathetic because I get it. I know it's not cheap. So what can I say? Gosh, you have more knowledge than me. So, but I guess it's be patient with yourself. And even though people will tell you this and you may not believe it, you truly are beautiful, even without the but. Yeah, like believe it when they say it. Even though I know, having been there, how hard it was to believe it. So if you can, just come to a place of believing it. And then to the other guys, when you told me to do this podcast, a song by TLC, you can buy your mail, you can fix your hair if you say so. You can buy your nose, You can buy all the makeup the man can make. Yeah, like that song talks about you can buy anything. You can buy your hair, you can buy your nose, you can buy. What you can't buy is the unprettiness inside you. So
No,
it
that you
doesn't.
can't buy.
So if you can't find a way to make other people feel good about themselves, either you shut up or just go fix your unpretty, because you're not pretty if you're just mean to other people. Because even those radio people you are talking about, that's just meanness. So what? Nakuru has a problem of fluorosis because it's in the water. What do you want them to do about it?
Exactly. Yes.
Unless
And
you're
a lot
suggesting
of
we fix the entire water system.
And they probably didn't know. I didn't even know at the time it was water.
No, but even if you know, what are you
What
going
are
to
you
do
gonna
about
it?
The water comes from your tap. What are you going to do about it? Buy water every day. How many households can afford
Can
to do
afford
that?
that.
So that comes from, in my opinion, a place of unprettiness. Like, you can fix your nose, you can fix your teeth because you have perfect teeth, but just don't be unpretty.
Like, don't make it
Yeah.
topic about laughing. And I remember like it didn't hurt because at the time mine was fixed, but I could like somebody listening to that
Yeah.
that actually has that problem.
Yeah. So I guess mine was
How it
from,
makes them feel.
yeah, it's a place
Yeah.
of, come from a place of empathy and fix your unpretty. Like, just because you have pretty face and teeth and nose doesn't make you pretty if you can still be mean.
Right.
Fix
Because
your-
that
that was just mean.
It
That was,
was mean.
and again, coming from a person who's been that, and like I said, it was my identity from my childhood. So it was just mean. So don't be mean. Yeah.
If you know anyone who is going through this problem and is struggling, there's a community out there that can help. There is help. Just let us know in the comment, share the video, and subscribe. This has been a wonderful conversation, a little bit emotional because I've actually never had it, even with close friends. So thank you so much, Eva, for coming and having and being very, very open.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions about the issues with fluorosis or the brown teeth, do let us know in the comments. How have you navigated it? What information would you like to know? We're going to be having more conversations about just life, beauty, how to navigate being a woman in this Lioness Grotto podcast. So please subscribe. Let's have real conversations about what is affecting us and how we can grow and navigate and help each other. Thank you so much for watching.